Some get the power, some get devout. Cash, money, and bitches, it's all big business. You could do the math to the next stop crash. Why the people go to cash, gotta go to
Okay, so I've been charged with moderating a panel that doesn't really need moderation. You know, I think it would be the opposite of what it would, you know. So I just wanted to throw some ideas out, and I've been studying psychedelic plants for, I don't know, 50 years, and I've mostly been concerned with its antiquity. How have we as human beings been dealing with these plants, and how have they been dealing with us? You know, what role have they served for us? So if I look down, let's say to 6,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago with peyote, with the people first smoking DMT and bufotenin and stuff like that, what they did for us was help us to adapt to new situations. And I think that's where the value is for today, and that's what I want to throw back at you. They always have been there to help us adapt to new situations. They were there when we were shifting from nomadic life and hunters and stuff to settled agricultural life. All these plants were there to help us out on the thing. When the Europeans came to America, in that encounter, where helped the native people deal with these newcomers that were to the Native American not very much different to animals, because you can probably standing here in the Bahamas, you could have smelled the boat full of white people and animals coming down. You probably like they say in Dead Man, the smell of the white man preceded him. And in this case, you can probably hear with all the beasts in there, people full of hair, like. Yeah, it was what it was. Imagine, and those people would show you 2 cross sticks with a guy nailed to it. And then they would shove that in your face. And you would say, who the hell are these people coming with such bestiality at us? So then again, if you look at the role of peyote in North America, when everybody was being put in reservations, there comes peyote that eventually turns into the Native American church to help people transition to that. So, and you see it all over the place. So one can help but wonder, what about us? Here we are using this plant these plants and substances from the plants at a very critical moment in our history. You know, you see it, people blowing themselves apart in Paris, crazy warriors fueled with Captagon, you know, Captagon double amphetamines, just fighting in Syria and fighting like fueling themselves towards apocalypse. So how are we going to deal with this? What is the role of all of this for us? How are we going to use these plants and substances to adapt to this new situation? I'm not saying solve the problem, because that would be another deal. But how can it help us adapt? So what about then all of these images that we have around us here, surrounding us? Not that. So I was kind of thinking of this for days, because I didn't know what to do here. So I thought, what role art and plants and psychedelic substances in general can have to help us out on this? Then talking to Chris yesterday, he said, well, how about relating it to all of the images in here? So yeah, let's relate it to the images in here. And so I thought, I remember this from my grad school days, this text by Alan Capro, who was a guy that he was intent, LSD taker, intending erasing the line between art and life. What is the difference? So Capro said, I'll read it to you and then I'll throw it at you and you can do as you please. In the sense of, why do we need to drink these plants? Why do we need to make pictures of what we see when we eat these plants? And then how about leaving the plants alone and making chemical concoctions and let the plants live their life and without us bothering them, you know. So now we get at a moment where we are getting consciousness about plants as sentient entities. How about treating them as such? We can make all this stuff now in a lab. You're gonna throw things at me, I know, but look, we can make all this stuff in a lab. Why cut feet, meters of ayahuasca? Why cut arms and more arms out of San Pedro? when we can construct these things and not bother the plants anymore. But that's another matter. This is what I kind of wanted to, let me read you, in the old days of psychedelics, they would do completion test, and the people on psychedelics would be the best at completing missing letters in sentences like here. So what is, once the usual question of subject matter, and what are the givens about? What is art? What is poetry, music? Why exhibit? Why have an audience? Creativity, aesthetic value? All of this is taken for granted. So, but what about making art? Whether you make sound, whether you do art in the streets, whether you do art skating, or whatever it is that you do to make images. What about it? What if I only had a vague idea about art, but didn't know the conventions that told me when I was in the presence of it? Like now, or I lost myself, or was making it. What if I were digging a hole? Would that be art? What if I didn't know about audiences and publicity? What if I were to just go shopping? Would that not be art? What if I didn't realize that art happened at certain times and in certain places? What if I were to lie awake imagining things in bed at 4 a.m.? Would that be the wrong place and the wrong time for art? What if I weren't aware that art was considered more marvelous than life? What if I didn't know an artist was meant to create art? What if I were to think art was just paying attention? Maybe that's it. What if I were to forget to think about art constantly? Could I still engage in art? Would I be doing something else? Would that be okay? So, be my guest. I did my job.
Like, am I supposed to answer all of those questions at once? Okay.
One at a time.
I agree. That's my answer. I'm gonna let the experts start, and then I'll, complement their words.
I have something to say, as usual. No, I was just going to say that art is evidence. Art starts in your mind, and as an imagination. And I believe that it's channeled from the divine. It comes from the creator into your mind as a thought. But it's not art when it's in your mind. It's only a thought. Then you're in the studio and you make it into a thing. That's art in your studio. That is a thing. But nobody's seen it yet. So it's still just you and your thing, your art. So the next thing to do is to share it with the community. So you share it with community, and you have it in a gallery. You even put it up on Facebook and send it out to everybody. You have it in a cafe. You put art out in the community. But then nobody has said anything about it, and there's no sales. Until you get into the inner life of the community. And that's what the community thinks of your art and how they react and respond to your art. That's the inner life of the community around the subject of your art. It shows up when people wear it or tattoo it on their body or have a critical conversation online about it, or when they press the like button. That's what the like button is there for. It's the response of the inner life of the community to your art. And then people from outside have seen it. The community has seen it. And somebody, some artist maybe, or some creative person, will take that thing that they saw, which is your art, and they blend it in some way, and it transforms their life or their art or their creative path. So I look around here and I see many resonances of other artists or of Alex's art in other people's art. We all influence each other. So that is the upwardly spiraling. So it's not just a circle, it's actually a spiral, because it's other people's, take those ideas and turn them into other ideas. So art is evidence, and that is what art is. And whether it's good art or not good art is completely subjective. It has to do with what you think of it or what you feel about it. But it is art because the artist intends it to be art, whether it is art or not. If it's a crap in a jar, and an artist says, this is my crap in a jar, and this is my art, they put it on a pedestal, put it in an art environment, people have done that, okay? It's not, it's already been done. But,
saw it at Art Basel today.
Yeah, you saw that in Art Basel.
It's worth a lot of money, that shit. Yeah.
If they intend it to be art, it's art. If they say this is art shit, it's art. Whether it's good art or bad art is another question. That's up to each person and individual to determine. But it's art if the artist says it's art.
One of the things I thought was interesting too was a lot of this. I thought, well, if the artist intends it to be art, then it's art. Then, like Marcel Duchamp, who signs a urinal, or any other ready-made or found music and things like this. This is a realm of the aesthetic. You could say the same thing about spirituality. It's the intention to have a spiritual practice or spiritual experience on something that determines whether it's spiritual or not. You're instead of saying that it's all these questions about art, I could see how Alan was taking us to the point where what we're considering, where is the art? The art is in the consciousness, and in the consciousness of the artist and the perceiver and the viewer. And one of the great things about visionary art, and all the artists here, is that they're bringing forward this domain. It's not just about examining the form of art. This is using art as it has been used for millennia as a portal into the imagination. And sometimes these artists are very skilled in ways that some artists might think is backward to be so skilled in realism or one thing or another. It's illustrational, but these criticisms and things like that of the great, amazing skill of these beautiful artists and painters is you comprehend it once you've had one of these experiences. You see that, oh, there's a value to the devotional labor that goes into many of these works of art, that these are offerings from the soul, and they have to be done in a careful way because you want to honor the ornament and beauty of the infinite domains that you experience. And so it's a natural kind of sacred energy that goes into these works of art. And I think that they're like batteries of consciousness that get downloaded. That's basically what a work of art is to me, is that it is a condensation, an artifact of consciousness, and that's digestible. The easiest way to alter your consciousness by looking at art. And
All right, I'm gonna compliment you guys then. Okay, now I'm ready. You guys warmed it up, It's like, what are you doing passing the microphone to me first, man? Wow, this is a really loud microphone. For me, art also can be the psychedelic, and from doing psychedelics themselves, I feel life is, this is a really loud microphone. I'll borrow this one. Okay, it's more chill. Or I just really suck at microphones. When I don't do a lot of psychedelics myself, and that's why I feel really awkward being on a panel that's about psychedelics. If anything, sometimes I'm really like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do it so much, there's roles and times for it, but I personally had family members that maybe they didn't benefit 100% from their experiences with it. It's like to each their own, it's really like for some people's medicines, other people's poisons. We all got different sensitivities. We all got different brain chemistries. I know myself, I can handle some, but I'm not like a heroic kind of dude. And being like sensitive, I really want to make sure I don't break something in me at the same time too. but I have done it, and I'm grateful for the things I've learned from them and the influence I've had on my art. But the main message I would have gotten from them was that life was my ayahuasca trip and my psychedelic journey. Like every single conversation and day and suffering and enjoyment, that is the lesson of the world and stuff. Thanks for your but you know, as much as I'm 36 years old. I'm not old. I'm not that young either. My 20s are past where I was trying everything, and now I'm very careful. But I still find a role for those, or a couple of those substances in my life. But I can't really say that I do these things in order to find my visions for my paintings. I feel like I'd feel a lot better about my art if it's just pure Chris without ghostwriter or a separate entity, you know, facilitating, you know, as much as they teach me, you know, but everything teaches you something. So yeah, that's a point of view.
That's a really good point, actually, and I'll fall somewhere in between where you guys land and where you land, because I have had some incredible transformative psychedelic experiences. But I found, I'm almost 40, and I found that I'm kind of in a similar place where I approach psychedelics with a kind of reverence, where they come into my life, and like with ayahuasca, I recently had an ayahuasca journey, and it was probably the most profound experience of my life up to this point. But after it, I feel like I need time to digest the amount of information that I was exposed to, and I feel like my eyes are still adjusting to the light, so to speak. But that being said, there are so many, and you guys touched on some of them, there are so many other modalities as well that can lead us into these amazing kind of like transcendent spaces. And someone mentioned it earlier, meditation has been one for me that throughout my entire life, when I originally learned to meditate, that was one of the most transformative experiences for me too, and it's really helped in songwriting. Songwriting is the way that I most predominantly express myself. And finding moments throughout the day, every day, to have, it's like you're setting aside a time like to be quiet and go inward and close your eyes and not do anything. You know, it like creates clarity, like you're opening a window for other things to rush through. And it's interesting to me that all of us will spend, you know, for me it's like 15 minutes to get ready in the morning, but some of us spend an hour to get ready in the morning, and then we spend an hour getting ready to go to bed and all these things, and then people talk about, like, I don't have time to meditate. You know, it's like, how long do you take to brush your hair every day? Like, how long do you take to wash your face, to eat? Like, and these are all kind of like outward things. And so, anyway, getting back to the idea of these different modalities to transcendence, meditation's been a wonderful one for me, and then also certain other plant medicines, like tea. My partner, my girlfriend, studies Cha Dao, which is the way of tea, and it's a very, very old tea ceremony, and it uses the plant Camellia sinensis as a gentle, transformative experience every single day, sometimes twice a day, and it's a kind of like a softer entry into transcendence. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there are lots of roads to bliss or to transcendence, and we should be open to all of them as long as they are, you know, helping us in some capacity. So.
Hello? Okay. Well, I would say for a lot of what influences my artwork is music, with creative visualization, and definitely, you know, psychedelics plays a big role, but I like what you were touching on with like meditation and still having that like spiritual practice alongside, while, you know, and it just like amplifies each other, you know, they have like sort of a symbiotic relationship, you know. And yeah. A lot of the work, visionary artwork that I see, it's sometimes like I get really sparked by on an emotional level. And the same goes with dance. A lot of trance dance. I dance a lot, and the feelings that I get is just overwhelming and something like from a different world, and plays a huge role in a lot of the art being created. But yeah.
That's an interesting point too, because dance was one of the earliest forms of sort of transcendent ritual as well, and I'm a terrible dancer, but I know people that are amazing dancers, and they express themselves with like this. They have a kind of kinetic intelligence that they're able to feel music and things, and sometimes even to the music that I make, I see people dancing. I'm like, how the fuck are you doing that? Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, why can you do that to what I make? You know, but that's amazing. That's an amazing thing to be able to have something that is specifically yours and feels specifically yours, that you're able to transmit your creativity through, but then also recognize that it's something that is old as time. Like, we've been dancing to transcend forever, as long as we've been here, you know?
What was the question again? Everything. When it comes to, let's say, art, what I believe in when it comes to art, I believe that we're all created from art. So art comes from within us, outward. So as us being works of art, it all transcends from within, inward, outward. So basically, in relation to psychedelics, you know, I never really considered myself a psychedelic artist. No, not at all. But it just came out that way. And trust me, I've experienced all the psychedelics on the table. Maybe not for spiritual purposes, but maybe just on, you know, just to party. But, you know, it led me down certain paths. And when I reached the path of Iboga, which is a root out of Africa, it basically opened up new doors. Opened up my mind, my heart, mind, body, and soul to a new life. A new life of art from within. So basically I was expressing my artistic self onto any surface, whether it be a mural or a canvas. Yeah, it's just, Iboga was the root of it all when it comes to, I want to say, my inner expression. And that's what I believe art is, an inner expression. So, it all circumferences around love. And then that's where, when I had my Iboga experience, you know, I was fighting demons, fighting the dark side. And once I initially became like a love man superhero from within, took all this negativity that was within and threw it in a trash can. And from there, basically, like, that wasn't good enough. So I set the negativity on fire. That wasn't good enough. So, like, I threw a grenade in the trash can and it blew up. You know, the negativity was gone. You know, and I kept doing that through my whole experience. And just like, it just opened my mind, my heart, mind, body, and soul to how precious, how important we really are to this art form we call life. So I transcended that to my latest creations after that experience, which, like I said, was love. Ended up in love. And honestly, like Alex said, it's a natural, art is natural, should be natural. And it's a natural, like, a natural love coming from within you outward. So express it. Express your love. That's all of us.
It's an honor to be here at Moksha with Ray and sitting with everybody here on this panel. I'm not quite sure how to jump into this conversation, but I'm going to give it a shot. Just a little biographical history here. I grew up in homogenized suburbs of the Midwest. And I knew pretty immediately that I had kind of a search a thirst for novelty. So that's kind of guided my life as far as getting turned on to new music and new art and new experiences. I wound up starting a record label in Seattle called Sub Pop. We signed Nirvana, so, et cetera, et cetera. But in 1995, I read this book by Terence McKenna called The Archaic Revival. And I said to myself, A, I have to meet Terence McKenna in person, and B, I have to smoke DMT. So I had these two goals. And I heard that Terence was going to be speaking down in Palenque. That's where I met Manuel here. So I went down to Palenque, Mexico, where there was essentially an entheogenic seminar, something like this, where information was being shared. And while I was there, I got to meet Terence McKenna. It was just an amazing experience, one of the most brilliant philosophers the world's, I don't know. What do you say about Terence McKenna? Guy just totally blew my mind. But while I was down there, I was introduced to a sacred pipe holder. And that sacred pipe holder had some DMT. So I smoked it, and it pretty much changed my life and changed the course of my life for the last 20 years. Now, as the universe would have it, the sacred pipe holder was wearing a Nirvana t-shirt. So the universe does have a sense of humor. So I basically disengaged from the music business and moved to a remote island, Orcas Island in Washington State, so I could live my life deeper in nature. And I spent 10 years cross-referencing every single entheogen that exists. And in all of my research, I came across a compound that really wasn't discussed at Palenque, and it wasn't discussed in Alex's presentation. And this compound is a compound that really changed my life more than anything, and that is 5-MeO-DMT. And that's different from NN-DMT, which is what I had done down in Palenque. And 5-MeO will trigger a classic mystical experience where you dissolve into white light and have a near-death experience. And the first time I really crossed over on 5-MeO is the same week that I met Alex here at a conference on creativity and psychedelics that Terence hosted in Hawaii. So basically, I went to Hawaii, met Alex, then I died, and I came back. Awesome vacation, got to do a little snorkeling, but the death part really stayed with me. And when you have a death experience like that, you live life more creatively because you take more risks. Okay, as an artist, essentially as a creative person, I am not an artist, but I do consider myself to be a creative person. So I have lived more creatively because I know that when I quote unquote die, there's just gonna be a big fat party on the other side. So it's allowed me to navigate my life in a more risk-taking and creative way. Now, since that time, I became more and more enamored with the festival culture that's been kind of emerging, primarily on the West Coast, Burning Man being the most famous example of that, where you have this model of co-creative society that's heart-centered and creative. And I think it's a tremendous and awesome trend in our society. They're happening every year. There's a new one. The island I live on, Orcas Island, just started its own festival called Imagine. Second weekend in September, 600 people. Drum Spider, who is going to be playing tomorrow, was there. I just experienced Symbiosis for, I don't know, the third time. I don't know if anybody here has been to Symbiosis. State of the art, okay? So for me, as a creative person, to immerse myself in 360 degrees of incredible transcendent music and art and food and philosophy, that's what's really inspiring me these days. And on one final note, there's a project I've been involved with lately that I'm really excited about. I am involved with a new company called 8STEM, and we are going to introduce a new digital music format that is interactive. So when you download music on your phone, you can customize, create, and remix, and then share it with your friends. And that's just a way that I'm kind of plugging in to a more co-creative society. And that was definitely influenced by a lot of what we're talking about here tonight. Thank you.
If I may, because one thing that I get in common from everybody here talking is that we're sort of like a privileged crowd. You know, I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be here. You know, we'll be some person living under a bridge, or so we're. However bad and fucked up you think your life was, if you're here, it's probably very excellent. So, what responsibility does that bring to us? Are we to just live this privileged life and be, wow, I was born lucky? But what about paying this back? How can we contribute something? I was reminded as you were talking, this is a corny, snobbish quote, but Louis XIV had what they call a morganatic wife, the wife that can sleep with the king, but the kids have no right to anything. So she said in a letter, somebody asked her for money, and she said, for her time, said, I give all of my time to the king, and I give the rest to this asylum she had of women in trouble. So you wonder, said, I give all of my time to the king and the rest to the asylum. So what is this rest? What is this? You know what I mean? What is this rest she's talking about? If I give it all to you, how can I give the rest to you? So I think that then we come to the idea of gift, but a true gift, when an artist, for example, a gift as a thing that nobody asked before. I mean, it just fell on me. I was lucky or whatever. But then, how do you reciprocate with that? How do you not get paid for it? Because here when they give you, like, give money to the United Way or whatever the hell you want to give money, but they always say, oh, the satisfaction you get from donating that gift. but then that's it. It's no longer a gift. It's a trade. You know, I give you something and you give me a smile back, so I get satisfaction, and it's no longer a gift. So in art, I think we have the opportunity of giving a gift without the person receiving it knowing it's receiving a gift, or the person giving it knowing that you are giving a gift. The same for the person that does the work. So, I mean, to make it simple, like I look, let's say, at that painting by Eva there, for example, and then I see the clouds, I see the face melting into into nature, and then I drive home, and I realize an aspect of life, of melting into things that I didn't know otherwise. So the painter gave me that gift. She didn't know she did, and I didn't know I received it. So that's a real gift. So how can we do that kind of gifting through our art and through our life, just reciprocity, no exchange that way? So I don't know if
I think part of that is once again the intention. Tibetan Buddhists have a wonderful idea about planting a seed of liberation in the mind stream of a viewer. So they have an altruistic intention toward enlightenment, that energy and that intention is planted into the artwork, and so somehow symbolically it's entangled, and energetically it's a battery for that kind of consciousness. So I think art can carry and deliver those kinds of symbolically resonant and awakening kind of experiences for us. I think that this gallery's full of them, and the artists, who are inspired and driven to share those fantastic, amazing breakthrough kind of moments, whether they're doing much. Most of the artists that I know, they can't spend all day tripping all the time, They work real hard, and these paintings take a long time. They're carefully done works, and so it means that a little bit goes a long way, and that the best way to work with it is to work with it. And like you're saying, don't just go running back into the ocean before you've properly, integrated what you've been given. And you could spend an entire lifetime integrating one journey, for many of us. But nevertheless, reacquaintance with the divine infinite is, I have found really helpful, for recentering.
It brings up an interesting point in with the gift of art and that exchange, and then also the integration, and something that I've noticed, because I paint as well, and I've always noticed with songwriting and with painting, there's a remarkably similar feeling amongst the process of making the work that in and of itself feels like you're being gifted something. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're open, most of us, I personally think that all human beings are inherently creative. I think that we express that, whether it's in art or music or dance. We're adaptive animals, and we adapt to crazy situations. For example, like what's going on in the world right now, like we're adapting to these insane new conditions, which is inherently creative. Like we have to express that creatively. But back to my point, like the gift to me, and I think that a lot of people could agree with this, is that when you're doing these things, when you're open, when you're the channel, and the music and the art is sort of pushing through, you are free of thought for periods of time, which is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And you kind of like wake up from the experiences occasionally, and you have this amazing painting in front of you that might have the ability to affect other people, or you have a song that you've written that might affect people. And that in and of itself is an amazing gift, I think.
Obviously. Obviously, I agree with all what they're saying. I just wanted to add to that. For me, art is one of the biggest psychedelics out there, and it's a psychedelic that it's free most of the times because you just gotta go and look at it. And if it's good art and art with good intention, what is good art, but some art can really grab somebody by the balls and be like, what the fuck, that kind of art is for me the most old school, because it's been throughout the history of humanity, but powerful because everybody gets affected by art. And if it makes a feeling inside you, you didn't even have to eat or drink anything. It's doing the power right there visually from the thing to your eyes, to your heart. So here, the art lifestyle is awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna be all like, oh, I work so hard for you guys and stuff, but there is a lot of when you put it as the intention of service, and that's what I've found throughout my life, because I've always been an artist, and then you question why am I doing this? Am I doing it for money? Am I doing it to be popular, to, for people to love me and find, so the conclusion, a lot of those, there's many reasons why somebody does art, but the most deep reason we can do it is to be of service to humanity at a time when we really need to turn the tables around. It's like an urgency that's driving me crazy. And thank you. And I can't do anything. I'm just a skateboarder kid who learned how to paint, and that is my, gun of love. I painted out there. That's a symbol of okay, I'm a warrior in this spiritual battle between good and evil, and I want good to, defeat the empire at the end of the movie. As hard as it seems when you're looking out the window and you see your main fleet being destroyed, and and your father's turned on you, and etc. That's a bad analogy, but no, I still believe we can win. The positivity can win. That goodness will save humanity, or we'll blow it again, and then back to the start. But art is a big, weapon, if you want to use that analogy once again, to try to heal the people, because it's straight up medicine. And I love coming to Miami and seeing medicine in your face wherever you go. And that's how starving people are. People are starving for true essence of soul. And these people are sharing it around the world on walls. You don't even have to go to a gallery anymore. It's in your face, I'm here. And that's why I love street art, and that's why I love visionary art creeping into street art too. And I love things like Miami Art Basel and people giving a damn and coming together to listen about, these intentions we got to help the world in some way, at least visually, or at least making it prettier and making us happy for some moments.